undoubtedly the most aggrieved emperor in history. Above, the Empress Dowager listened to court affairs behind silk curtains. Below, powerful officials controlled the imperial court. Even the Empress blatantly kept young consorts. Today, she was openly cavorting with a young lover in the rear palace, and ordered the palace maids to make you kneel outside the Kunming Palace to listen. At this moment, the impatient palace maid Xiao Yao pushed you. Hurry up and leave, or don't blame me for being rude to you. You, who had just transmigrated, could not bear this insult. You kicked Xiao Yao, sending her flying, blood gushing from her mouth. She crashed heavily to the ground, unable to get up. A lowly servant dares to be insolent. You rushed over quickly, and said rapidly. Xiao Yao's eyes were dazed, her face swollen like a pig's head. You dare hit me? You're dead for sure. The Empress will never let you off. Xiao Yao screamed loudly. You grabbed Xiao Yao's hair and dragged her towards the Kunming Palace. Your subject is going to settle the score with that vile woman, you declared. Xiao Yao shrieked like a slaughtered pig. You dragged her by the hair towards the Kunming Palace, leaving a long bloody trail on the ground. A chilling sight. Xiao Yao's screams grew fainter, but soon alerted the eunuchs and maids. In the rear palace, Miss Xiao Yao! Release Miss Xiao Yao quickly! Your Majesty, have you gone mad? How dare you treat the young lady like this? A horde of eunuchs and maids charged at you angrily. Fortunately, the imperial system you activated earlier rewarded you with a yellow rank emperor's sword and raised your cultivation to the pinnacle of royal practitioners. Otherwise, in this martial world, you would have met your doom. You snorted coldly and withdrew the Emperor's sword from your spatial ring. Brilliant sword ki burst forth in dense waves, sweeping towards the charging eunuchs and maids. They were all strangled in an instant. Suddenly, they backed away. Those palace maids and eunuchs were so terrified that their souls fled their bodies. They scattered and ran towards the Cunning Palace. You soon arrived at the Cunning Palace as well, and at this moment, Xiao Yao had only her last breath left. No more energy remained. You tossed her body onto the ground. Xiao Yao's back was completely rotten. As soon as you entered the Cunning Palace, you saw the Empress Qinzu, her clothes in disarray, hurriedly walking out. She was adjusting her clothes as she walked. Behind her was a young man, also disheveled. It was Wu Zong, the commander of the Imperial Guards. Wu Zong was the son of the Minister of Rights. The Minister of Rights was a man of the Chancellor. Therefore, Wu Zong was naturally also the Chancellor's man at such a young age. His cultivation had already reached the late innate realm. He was specifically arranged by the Chancellor to become the commander of the Imperial Guards. A eunuch knelt before Empress Qinzu, loudly saying, "The Emperor has gone mad. He killed Lady Xiao Yao and killed many others." Qinzu saw Xiao Yao's horrific corpse on the ground. The flush on her face just moments ago was instantly replaced by frost. She coldly said, "Mumu, you're looking for death." You gripped your sword, looking at Qinzu, coldly saying, "The shameless wanton, daring to commit such indecent acts in the harem. Her entire clan should be executed." Qinzu took up a long whip, coldly saying, "You've truly gone mad. Today, this empress shall properly discipline this waste. Let you recognize reality." As she spoke, Qinzu whipped the lash towards you. At this time, Wu Zong pulled Qinzu's hand, smiling, "Zur, don't dirty your hands with this sort of thing. It seems this fellow has been deluded into madness, truly thinking he is the emperor. Allow me to discipline him for you." With that, Wu Zong took the whip from Qinzu's hands and swiftly approached you. You felt most displeased, Mumu. How could such a morning court session occur? Being called your majesty a few times and you're already addicted. You think you're really the supreme ruler above all. Do you know how angry I am right now? I was sleeping so soundly, and you disturbed me. Do you know the consequences? Screw you. You suddenly took a step forward, and with a sweep of the Emperor's sword in your hand, sword key flashed in all directions. A spray of fresh blood spurted out. The arm holding Wu Zong's whip separated and flew into the air without a trace. He let out a horrific scream and instantly collapsed to the ground, screaming hysterically, "You scoundrel! You're dead for sure. I'll make sure you can't live." Nor can you die. How dare you? Yu snorted coldly, and with a few swift sword strokes, several sword ki blasted out, instantly severing Wu Zong's remaining arm and both legs. Then with another sword swing, Yu sliced right at Wu Zong's groin, cutting off his fifth limb as well. Wu Zong let out an agonizing scream before passing out. This scene shocked everyone present. The eunuchs and maids trembled in fear. Qinzu swallowed hard in astonishment. You scoundrel! You hid your strength so well. Qinzu was very clear about Wu Zong's formidable power. Wu Zong was a late-stage innate expert, mastering many powerful martial arts. Even an ordinary sect master would struggle against him. Yet now, Wu Zong could not withstand even one of your strikes. At this moment, Qinzu panicked too. Seeing you approach, he staggered back in fright, his face deathly pale. Your Majesty, how dare you do this? Wu Zong's father is a powerful official. Treating him like this, the West will never let you off. You did this to him. I won't let you go without the above. You coldly said, truly a fine pair of adulterous wanton lovers. Even now, you're still considering your adulterous lover. Your affection runs remarkably deep. Qinzu's pupils widened in shock. What do you mean? You dare kill me? You've truly gone mad. My father is Chancellor Qin. Do you dare kill me? Are you tired of living? Do you know what you're doing? I'll send your father to the bridge of helplessness to reunite with you. Before your words could finish, you instantly appeared before Qinzu. With one sword strike, Qinzu tried to resist, but she didn't have time. Before she could act, you slashed her neck with your sword. Her head instantly separated, flying several meters and smashing onto the ground. The Empress Mother, a eunuch, screamed in terror. You looked towards the cunning palace. Those eunuchs and palace maids sneered. You wretched slaves! You all deserve to die. Immediately, Mumu was like a wolf among sheep. Soon, the ground was covered in corpses. It was at this moment that a clamor of footsteps came from the Kunming Palace gates. A large group of imperial guards appeared, led by 3 deputies. As soon as they entered and saw the carnage in Kunming Palace, especially when they saw the decapitated Empress Qinzu, they all felt the sky was falling. Wu Zong was dead. Even if it was the emperor, he too was dead. Their problems would not be major. But now the Empress Qinzu was dead. Who could withstand Chancellor Qin's fury? One deputy enraged at you, the emperor. You've gone mad. You dare ... The ringing of a sword echoed. Your figure flashed like a specter. The deputy's head fell to the ground. This move instantly froze everyone present. You looked at the other 2 deputies with cold indifference, saying submit or die. The 2 shared the same fate. Same event. A powerful aura of authority emanated from you. At that moment, one of the vice commanders suddenly took action, but he did not attack you. With one knife stroke, he stabbed another vice commander in the back, then swiftly withdrew his blade. In that uncomprehending gaze, he unleashed a dazzling move, directly decapitating that vice commander. You recognized the attacker as Vice Commander Song Lang. His name was Song Lang, a late-stage innate realm expert. He had served as an imperial guard in the previous emperor's reign, holding the vice commander position for nearly 20 years. With a thud, Song Lang knelt before you directly. He spoke with utmost sincerity. Your Majesty, I have served for many years. Over these years, I watched helplessly as treacherous officials brought chaos. I wanted to slay the traitors, but I was too insignificant to act. Now that I see your Majesty no longer tolerates such depravity, this humble subject vows to be your vanguard. At your horse's head and tail. You appraised Song Lang with interest. No wonder this man from the previous emperor's era survived the purges. Retaining such an important position, his decisiveness and opportunism were extraordinary. As for Song Lang's words, you did not believe a single one. Then Song Lang pointed at the dead vice commander, saying, Your Majesty, this man was a disciple of the treacherous minister, heavily favored by the traitor. I fear he posed a threat to your Majesty. Without seeking permission, I took the liberty of eliminating this villain, overstepping my bounds. Please punish me, your Majesty. You smiled faintly, understanding Song Lang's underlying message. He was telling you this vice commander was Minister Qin's man. By killing him now, he was making a gesture of goodwill. To reassure you, you helped Song Lang up, saying you are a pillar of the nation. Our Great Chu Dynasty is beset by turmoil, with treacherous officials in power. It is a time when loyal subjects like you are needed. You executed the nation's traitors for me. What crime is there in that? I decree you to be the commander of the Imperial Guards, leading the 3,000 palace guards. Any who defy you, put them to the sword without mercy. After subduing Chun Lin and Song Lang, you immediately had Song Lang lead the way to the guard headquarters for a great purge. Once you had full control of the Imperial Guards, a system notification sounded in your mind. Congratulations to the host for ascending to the second-tier Emperor. You have gained the second-tier configuration. The first-tier Son of Heaven sword is at the peak realm. Celestial Martial Skill Heaven Severing Sword Art Grand Dominating Aura. Second-tier Celestial Martial Skill Spiritual Will. And the peak of the Grand Sect, controlling battle puppets at will. May you ascend to the third-tier Emperor. Condition 1, control the Imperial City. 2, subjugate neighboring realms of comparable power. In an instant, you ascended to the peak of the Great Sect realm, just a hair's breadth away from the Martial Saint realm. Meanwhile, you also gained to Celestial Martial Skills, directly reaching the Great Accomplishment stage. Your Majesty, at this moment, Sun Rang came to your side and bowed. Your Majesty, what shall we do now? Although we've sealed off the news as best we can, it's impossible to contain it completely. In less than an instant's sticks time, Chancellor Qin will surely receive word, and the Empress Dowager has likely already dispatched people. You narrowed your eyes slightly, saying, since the signing palace is so near, I should pay a visit to this Empress Dowager. Just as you were about to depart the palace gates, the Empress Dowager's people arrived, led by the head eunuch of the signing palace, Gong Guo. He brought a group of imperial bodyguards to the gate. You looked at Gong Guo, your heart chilled by this old eunuch. Over the years, you, the Emperor, had suffered much abuse from this old eunuch. Where is your Majesty headed? Gong Gu's shrill voice rang out. You coldly replied, what do you mean? Where am I headed? Must I explain myself to a dead eunuch like you? Gong Guo let out a snort. Your Majesty speaks so imperiously. I come on behalf of the Empress Dowager. Word reached us of unrest in the palace, so I came to investigate the situation. The Empress Dowager awaits here. Your Majesty would do well to kneel, lest you suffer. You knelt to receive the decree. Gong Guo looked at you with disdain. Eunuch, you've lived too long, you said coldly. Gong Guo let out a cold snort. I represent the Empress Dowager. Disrespecting me is disrespecting her. Guards, slap his mouth. At Gong Gu's cold command, several signing palace guards charged forward to apprehend you. For them, abusing the Emperor was commonplace. No one viewed you, a puppet emperor, as worthy of any respect. But in that instant, Song Rang arrived with Imperial guards, blocking their path in front of you. Gong Guo was stunned. He never expected the Imperial guards to aid you. You traitorous dogs court death, he roared. How dare you defy the Son of Heaven's command? When the guards first defied me, I had them all arrested. You mean to rebel? Gong Gu's rage erupted with a stomp. True Qi filled the air, forming a massive shockwave that swept towards the guards. As the Empress Dowager's confidant, Gong Guo was no ordinary man. He was a formidable early sect master realm expert. His power was overwhelming. To him, the Imperial guards were insignificant ants. They had lived too long. His ki was overwhelming, instantly forcing back the guards, like a ghostly specter. Gong Guo left behind after images. As he flashed before Song Rang, his strike aimed to kill. His 5 fingers formed razor-sharp claws, utterly ferocious, swiping towards Song Lang's throat. Song Lang was merely an ordinary innate cultivator, not one of those peerless talents able to defy their realms. Facing Duke De, a clan nobleman, he had no power to resist. In an instant, he was forced onto the defensive, watching helplessly as Duke De closed in to finish him. But at the critical juncture, the air suddenly froze. Duke De sensed an immense, lethal killing intent. Startled into rapid retreat, he whipped his head towards the source in shock. It was you, eyes flashing. Impossible. How could this be? Duke De paled in disbelief. He knew the village's circumstances well. There was no chance for you to cultivate, let alone become a martial expert. But as you stepped forward, an immense pressure crashed like ocean waves. Duke D's face drained of color. He turned to flee, rushing to report that this puppet emperor was anything but. He took immense pride in his movement techniques. Though only an early-stage clan noble, in speed alone, few higher nobles could match him. Yet he'd barely turned when searing pain erupted in his back. And then, a finger-thick hole blasted open in his chest. His heart had been pierced through. He collapsed to the ground instantly, struggling to turn over. He saw you, serene, extending a finger still, trailing faint spiritual energy. Such terrifying power you had been concealing. Your profound abilities all along. He stared in disbelief, but you had no interest in his shock. With a few flicking motions, the innate cultivators at Duke D's side had their heads explode in an instant. Your finger's spiritual force crushed their spirits. Sheer terror filled Duke D's eyes. You strode over, planted a foot on his head. In that instant, his skull shattered, blood spurting like arrows. Mercy is for the weak, you remarked calmly. Song Ling and the others hurried to encircle and slaughter the remaining guards Duke De had brought. Those guards were merely ordinary cultivators, posing no threat as they were slain. But you did not wait for Song Ling. With a step, you flew towards the Compassionate Peace Palace. In less than a minute, you appeared before its gates. The two guards at the entrance looked at you in puzzlement as you materialized, but thought little of it. One of them drawled lazily, the Imperial Mother instructed. If you've come to beg, kneel at the gates. She see you whenever she feels like it. A gust of wind swept past, your form vanishing. The next instant, you reappeared by the gate, hands clamped on each guard's throat. A light squeeze. Two crisp snapping sounds. The guards crumpled to the ground, dead. You strode brazenly into the Compassionate Peace Palace, passing palace maids and eunuchs who noticed, but paid you no mind. Not a single one offering you courtesy. Some even whispered mocking remarks. Wonder how long this emperor will have to kneel today. My guess is all day. No, I bet longer. At least a full day and night. The fool actually thinks begging the Imperial Mother will earn him any favor. Serves him right. What is he daring to claim the imperial throne? Doesn't he know it belongs to the Prince of Ning? Oh, that's right, the Prince of Ning. He's with the Imperial Mother now. There will be entertainment soon. This idiot emperor will likely be beaten half to death by the prince. For a supreme cultivator such as yourself, their ignorance was beneath contempt. Naturally, you could hear the mocking tones of those maidservants. You turned to look at them. Yet those maidservants showed no fear, one even glaring at you with a scornful expression. Without hesitation, you slapped her across the face. Two maidservants reacted too slowly, their necks twisting 180 degrees before crumpling to the ground. The other two looked on in horror. Another slap from you and their heads exploded instantly. You continued on your way, soon arriving at the courtyard outside the Empress Dowager's chambers. As you entered, a touching mother-son scene unfolded. The Empress Dowager was dining with her beloved son, the Prince of Ning. They seemed the picture of familial affection, until the Empress noticed you approach, her brow furrowed in displeasure. Who allowed you to come here? She scolded. Get out and kneel, you insolent girl. Mother, you replied sweetly. Imperial brother. Is the Emperor? Is this any way to treat your sovereign? The Empress Dowager seemed taken aback. You sauntered over to a dog eating nearby, and scooped up its dish filled with scraps and vomit. Picking up some bones scattered on the table, you deposited them into the foul bowl and carried it over. Imperial brother has not dined, has he? You held out the putrid meal. Please, eat. You stared icily at the vile Prince Garon. In this palace, Liu Siyao suffered greatly, but none were more cruelly humiliated than you. Prince Garon frequently debased you in the most degrading ways. Forcing you to eat excrement was merely a mild example. He had locked you in dog kennels more than once. To the Empress Dowager watching this, it seemed perfectly normal behavior. In her son's presence, you were lower than a dog. Prince Garan sneered at your stillness. What's wrong, Imperial brother? Not to your liking? Or do you simply refuse to show me, your subject, respect? You stared unflinchingly at the vile Prince Garan. His cold laughter rang out. Does the Emperor honor his servants so little? The food is not good enough for his majesty? You won't deign to share this humble meal? You held Prince Goran's gaze. You said slowly, you must really enjoy eating dog shit, don't you? Xie Yunchen was briefly taken aback, then grew displeased. He said coldly, it seems you don't intend to show me any respect today. Xie Yunchen spat phlegm into the bowl. Xie Luo, he said, you dare call me Imperial brother? You think you're the shit that doesn't stink? Today you'll eat this meal. Whether you want to or not, you have no choice. As he spoke, Xie Yunchen prepared to force-feed you the dog feces. Yet with the Imperial Mother and the Grand Marshal's backing, having enjoyed the finest resources since childhood, his cultivation was naturally profound, already at the primordial peak. Just a stride from supreme mastery. To him, a wastrel like you with no cultivation was beneath contempt. He could dominate you however he wished. But in the next instant, he froze, for you had caught his hand, rendering it immobile. Shock flashed in Xie Yunchen's eyes. How dare you lay hands on me? He roared. With a light tug, you wrenched off Xie Yunchen's entire arm. Blood sprayed forth, as Xie Yunchen screamed like a slaughtered pig. The Imperial Mother too was struck dumb. Like a gale, she swooped to support Xie Yunchen, then lashed a palm at you. Insolent wretch, you dare harm my son. The Imperial Mother, a renowned supreme master, struck with a key-imbued palm technique, condensing the disturbed air into a massive ethereal hand. It seemed to crush the very space around it. You met it with a strike of your fist, shattering the palm force in an instant. The Imperial Mother shuddered, only now realizing that you possessed such profound cultivation, more powerful even than herself. Impossible. Who are you? She demanded coldly. There's no way you could be that wastrel Xie Yumo. You drew the Emperor's sword from the system space. With a single unsheathing, a myriad of sword rays erupted in chaos. Yours prompted the Empress Dowager's defensive move. Her profound inner energy coalesced into a wall. Yet in the next instant, the sword energy shattered that barrier. With a sickening sound, it sliced through the air, severing the Empress Dowager's arm. She staggered, nearly collapsing, horror filling her eyes as she screamed for help. At that very moment, from every corner of the Shining Palace burst forth massive energies. Over a dozen master cultivators revealed themselves, along with the mighty Grand Master. Instantly, they all attacked together, forming a vast energy formation to envelop you. The Empress Dowager's face drained of color. She staunched the bleeding stump hurriedly, glaring coldly at your surrounded form. I don't care who you are, her voice rang out, since you dared assassinate me. You can await your death. You laughed icily and drew your sword. Heavenly peerless swordsmanship. Heaven-rending sword-drawing technique. In that instant, boundless sword energy converged, swelling like a tremendous tidal wave, a blinding, roiling expanse of white. The thunderous rumbling shook the heavens. A terrifying, awe-inspiring scene. The Empress Dowager's eyes went wide in disbelief at the awesome power before her. The masters too stared in horror. These swords might utterly dwarf them. Their formation shattered instantly. Dozens of masters and the Grand Master himself were laid bare before your blade's fury. An unstoppable force, its power resounding through the heavens. Unrelenting, devastating. A truly cataclysmic scene. The Empress could only gape, watching in mute shock. As her defenses crumbled utterly, the lesser masters quailed, facing oblivion against such devastating might. They understood in that moment your sword's true supremacy. Their formation collapsed. More than a dozen masters and grand masters. Everyone fled in panic and disorder. And yet, it was still too difficult to escape. That sword strike was too swift, too fast for them to even have a chance to flee. Blood mist filled the air, scattered with broken branches and rubble. Over a dozen supreme masters, all dead. Their bodies torn asunder, shattered, reduced to swirling chunks of flesh, drenched in blood. It was as if a crimson rain poured down. The only survivor was that one supreme master. Yet he too was gravely wounded. his body covered in gashes, blood gushing forth. He lay on the ground, crawling forward with difficulty, crying out in anguish, "Imperial Mother, save me, please!" Xie descended from the heavens and crushed the Supreme Master's skull beneath his foot. Then he pointed his sword at the Imperial Mother and Prince Ning. The Imperial Mother stammered, "Who are you?" In that very moment, the Imperial Mother suddenly flung the Nether Prince away, casting him out of the ancient tomb. Then she turned and fled, employing tremendous lightness skill, leaving but a few afterimages before vanishing without a trace. "Fear not, Your Highness. The Imperial Mother will surely avenge you." The Nether Prince's eyes went wide, filled with disbelief. With a thump, he fell to his knees before Xie, staring at the withered tree, terror in his eyes. Imperial brother, spare me," he stuttered. "I was wrong, Imperial brother. We are blood brothers." Xie let out a cold laugh. He seized the Prince Ning's neck in a vice-like grip, lifting him into the air. "When you insulted me," he said coldly, "did you think of our brotherly bond then?" The prince struggled desperately, gasping, "You cannot kill me. My uncle is the Grand Marshal. He is the Queen of Wushen. She has fled now as well. If you kill me, you are doomed yourself." With a sickening crunch, the withered would snap the prince's neck. "Rest assured," it said coldly, "you'll have company soon enough. As for that old hag, she cannot escape." At that moment, the Empress Dowager, who had fled, plummeted from the sky, crashing violently to the ground, coughing blood. Close behind her descended a black-robed figure in a bronze mask, who planted a foot on the fallen empress, pinning her. "Your Majesty," he bowed to Xie. "This vile witch attempted to flee. I stopped her." "Well done," Xie chuckled softly. This masked figure was the Grand Master puppet granted by the system, utterly loyal to Xie, with power at the apex of mortal cultivation. When the empress tried to flee, Xie summoned this formidable puppet, naming it Yinyi. Xie approached the pinned empress slowly. She struggled in panic beneath Yinyi's foot. Her injuries grave. A mere initial stage Grand Master, she could not hope to overpower a peak expert like Yinyi. "Xie, you cannot kill me," she cried desperately. "We can join forces against the Chancellor. Spare me, and my brother the Martial Saint will assist you. If you kill me, he will never stop hunting you down. The Chancellor will surely aid him in secret, leaving you beset by 2 Martial Saints." Xie slammed a foot down on her head. Brain matter sprayed out. "You all must die," he said coldly. "My brother is the Martial Saint. If you kill me, he will surely hunt you down relentlessly, raising armies to destroy you. Chancellor Qin will also gladly assist him, perhaps even aiding him in secret. You will be besieged by 2 Martial Saints." With a sickening crunch, Xie slammed his foot onto her head, splattering her brains across the ground. "You all must die," he said coldly. As Xie crushed the Empress Dowager's skull beneath his heel, a clamor rose from the purple Nether Palace. Xie and Yingyi immediately flew out to see the Imperial Guards arriving, led by the commander. It was none other than the head of the commander's personal guards. They were locked in fierce battle with the Mansion of Compassionate Peace's guards. Xie gave Yingyi a nod of acknowledgement. Then, with a unified mind and spirit, they charged into the fray, each gripping a blade in both hands. They fell upon the mansion's guards in a bloody slaughter. Twin blades in hand, they were like the sides of the Grim Reaper himself. Corpses littered the ground, leaving Song Rang and the others utterly shaken. They had guessed Xie was holding back his true strength, but until now it had only been Xie himself, displaying his formidable martial prowess. It could not help but make their hearts uneasy, causing them to wonder. But now, witnessing this mysterious master in black, they were certain in their hearts Xie had indeed been restraining his true pearls. He must have been cultivating tremendous power in secret. And this black-robed, masked figure was proof. It did not take long before the mansion's guards were utterly slaughtered. Blood and severed limbs lay everywhere. "Your Majesty, it is done." Yinyi came to Xie's side. He bowed in salute, as did Song Rang and the Imperial Guards, all kneeling in obeisance. Xie looked to Song Rang. "Immediately seal off the Mansion of Compassionate Peace," he commanded. "Then forge the Imperial Mother's decree, summoning the 12 Supreme Commanders to audience with me." Song Rang swiftly led his men into the mansion grounds. Soon, they located the Imperial Mother's seal. They forged 12 copies of her decree, dispatching messengers across the city. The Imperial Guards and Supreme Commanders were elite forces, specially tasked with protecting the Emperor and the Imperial Palace, split into 12 divisions, each with 1,000 hand-picked elites. The finest warriors selected from tens of thousands, 12,000 strong in total, along with the Imperial Guards. They were the Emperor's most trusted regular troops, though the Imperial Guards were also military units. Their role was more focused on personal protection. They could hardly be considered regular troops. The only true imperial forces were the Imperial Guards, answering directly to the Emperor himself. Their status and might was self-evident. But alas, this Emperor, Xie Yunchen, never held sway over the Imperial Guards from the day he ascended the throne. The Imperial Guards and their 12 supreme commanders had all pledged loyalty to the Imperial Mother. Even the Prime Minister, the Taoist Qin, could do not but acquiesce. His words carried little weight, for the Imperial Mother and the Grand Marshal placed utmost importance on the Imperial Guards. They kept them under tight control. Though the Prime Minister wished to extend his reach, he was powerless to intervene. The 12 supreme commanders were truly formidable, each holding the noble rank of Grand Master. They were all grandmasters of the martial arts. Among them, no less than 200 were celestially gifted experts, an immensely powerful force, without a doubt. With the Imperial Mother's summons to the Imperial Guards, the 12 supreme commanders soon arrived en masse. The mansion of compassionate peace had been cleansed by then. Yet in the air still lingered a faint, lingering reek of blood. But none of the commanders found it strange. For the Imperial Mother's decree had stated clearly, the Emperor had gone mad, attacking the mansion with armed men. The Imperial Mother slew him, and to avoid further trouble from the Emperor's death, she urgently summoned them all. The commanders' hearts raced with excitement. The Emperor was dead. There was no doubt the Imperial Mother would surely install the Crown Prince as ruler. But the Prime Minister's faction would surely make a move if they firmly backed the Imperial Mother now. They could seize the glittering opportunity before them, wealth and glory as lords in the Imperial Court. The commander's personal guards remained outside the palace grounds. Then the 12 of them, hearts pounding with excitement, made their way into the main hall of the mansion. They whispered furtively among themselves. Suddenly, a figure strode in from outside the palace. Upon seeing who it was, the Supreme Commanders froze in shock. How can this be? The 7th Supreme Commander, Chen Rong, reacted most vehemently. He was a close relative of the Imperial Mother. They hailed from the prestigious Chen family, the clan of the Empress Dowager and the great general, Chen Qingfeng. Of the 12 squad leaders, 4 Chen clansmen. Chunru gaped at Xie Yunchen in shock. You worthless wretch, you're not dead? How can this be? Before he could finish, Chen Long recovered his wits. Xie Yunchen's appearance here contradicted the Dowager's message that he had been slain, implying betrayal. The Empress Dowager must have met foul fate. Enraged, Chen Long drew his blade and charged the Grand Master puppet at immense speed. His power was staggeringly immense. In a lightning blink, he was before Xie Yunchen. Sword raised to strike, yet Xie Yunchen didn't react, hands calmly at his sides, unblinking. In that instant, a black blur appeared. The puppet Yin Yi, lashing out, with a sickening crunch. His kick smashed Chen Long's chest. Bones shattered. The cultivator went flying like a broken kite, crashing through a water barrel. The squad leaders froze in shock. They were all master cultivators themselves, with keen senses that glimpsed Yin Yi's overwhelming might. Suspecting the Dowager's dire straits, they realized they faced a dreadful foe. Attack together, cried Chen Shang. We cannot fall here. With Chen Long crippled, the remaining 11 launched a desperate assault on Yin Yi. Chen Rong bellowed from the ground, capture the false emperor first. He's behind the Dowager's downfall. 2 of the masters broke off to attack Xie Yunchen directly, while the other 9 threw all they had at the implacable Yin Yi, fighting desperately for their lives. Yet the gravely wounded Chen Rong could only watch as the 11 masters clashed against oblivion. Seize that usurping emperor! The 2 turned their wrath on Xie Yunchen himself. While there, comrades fought Yin Yi's relentless onslaught. bravely facing obliteration. Two Grand Master experts instantly closed in on Xie Yunchen, both striking out to seize him. But to their horror, the hands they stretched forth were seized by Xie Yunchen instead. More perplexing still, how had he moved so fast? They could scarcely perceive his technique. With the slightest tug, the two Grandmasters' bodies flew out of their control, then smashed together viciously, like a pair of sandbags colliding. An earth-shaking boom. The two Grandmasters exploded instantly, leaving no trace but a crimson mist. Meanwhile, on the other side, several Grandmasters lay gravely wounded. Then, two more fell to Xie Yumo's blows from afar. In the span of mere breaths, two Grandmasters were dead, 10 lying broken on the ground. It was unthinkable. Chen Rong struggled to his feet. Impossible ... He gasped hoarsely, pointing at Xie Yunchen. You cannot be that useless wretch. In a flash, Xie Yunchen appeared before Chen Rong, slamming his head into the ground with savage force. An earth-shaking crack as Chen's skull shattered, brain matter splattering. His head was pulverized into fragments. Xie Yunchen waved his hand, and a horde of palace guards rushed in, seizing the 3 remaining Chen family grandmasters. Xie Yunchen tossed a few swords to the remaining 6 commanders, saying, "These 3 traitors can only be spared if they fight to the death for it. There are but 3 openings for them to fill. First to draw blade, first to live." Xie Yunchen's words hung in the air. The 6 commanders' hearts leapt, their eyes fixed on Xie Yunchen, filled with dread and disbelief. This man they had always dismissed as worthless. What unfathomable power did he command? The emperor concealed such depths, his cultivation so formidable, to have such mighty servants secretly under his command, and he who rarely spoke above a whisper wields such ruthless cruelty. His vicious methods spared none. To surrender was to die a partial death. Xie Yunchen watched the 6 remaining squad leaders, unmoving, silent. "I'll count to 3, he said calmly. "If none of you attack, you'll join the dead." He reached 3 without a response. The cultivators panicked, realizing his intent. Yet none wished to die. Grabbing fallen blades, they lashed out in desperation. But with only 3 targets, 3 would still meet a grisly fate. The slowest 3 found their attacks disrupted, blades deflected. Their comrades had beaten them to the targets, leaving the tardy trio with no path to surrender. Seeing their mistake, they dropped to their knees, pleading, "Your Majesty, mercy, grant us a chance to redeem ourselves. We will serve you with absolute loyalty from now on." Xie Yunchen shook his head. The chance was given and lost. Who is to blame for your failure to seize it? His words were cast in iron. Only 3 may live, no more. The pleas fell on deaf ears. With a blur of motion, Yin Yi struck, ending the wretched men's lives with brutal finality. The 3 survivors could scarcely breathe. One fell to his knees, crying out, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your mercy. From this day forward, I am your loyal servant." The other 2 quickly followed suit, groveling. Xie Yunmu's gaze was as cold as the grave. 3 lives were bargained for. No more can be spared. Yin Yi's blade flashed out in a final burst of slaughter. When it was over, only 3 terrified cultivators yet drew breath. They had witnessed the face of death itself, and knew their lives hung by a thread. One squad leader fell to his knees. "This subject thanks Your Majesty for sparing his life. From this day forward, I serve only Your Majesty. If ever my heart strays, may heaven and earth strike me down. Long live Your Majesty. Long live and long endure." Seeing this, the other 2 commanders hastily fell to their knees, kowtowing fervently. Xie Yunchen gazed upon the 3 prostrate ministers, saying slowly, "Treacherous officials have brought chaos to the court. Their villainy has disordered the realm. I shall purge this depravity from the land, and require the aid of 3 loyal ministers. Yet I fear the vile traitors may strike at your families to shake your devotion to my cause. Therefore, I shall bring your loved ones into the imperial city and place them under my protection. What say you, my loyal ministers?" The 3 commanders' hearts clenched, realizing the emperor demanded hostages. Though loath to comply in their minds, they dared not disobey in the slightest. "Your Majesty's grace, we cannot hope to repay it. We humbly thank Your Majesty." Xie Yunchen nodded, satisfied. The Witch Queen's reign has endured too long. Her grip on our neighbors must be broken. I aim to reclaim the Rainforest Kingdom first. I require your service in this endeavor. The commander named Pengming hastened to reply, "Your Majesty, I know well which in the Rainforest Court remain loyal to the Witch Queen, and which yet harbor devotion to their rightful ruler. I will gladly be your majesty's vanguard to share this heavy burden. Xie Yu nodded approvingly. Then I shall follow your lead, minister. He channeled spirit energy into the three, helping to heal their injuries. Then they departed the compassionate Concord Palace. Dozens of guards awaited them outside. The personal retinues of the 12 commanders. Under Xie Yu and the Shadow's swift strokes, any who dared raise a hand were cut down. The disloyal retainers swiftly called. Then they made for the Imperial Guard, while Xie Yu sent men into the city to bring the 3 commanders' families into the palace, taken as honored guests and royal hostages both. Peng Ming and the other 2 squad leaders once again abused the Queen Mother's decree, summoning the most loyal retainers of the other squad leaders. Then Xie Yu and Yin Yi struck without mercy, leaving none alive. Afterwards, Xie Yu easily took control of the royal guards. In his mind's eye flashed a system prompt. Congratulations, host, on ascending to the 3rd Realm Emperor. You have gained the 3rd Realm's gifts. The low-grade spirit tracing sword finger technique. Access to peak martial saint heavenly skills. Mastery of the king's conquering aura. The 3rd Realm's 5 chasing moons stride. The Yin celestial treasure art of transcendence. 1 martial saint battle puppet. 10 grand master puppet seals. And 3 complete martial array manuals. Within the army's camp, Xie Yu's cultivation soared instantly. His realm escalated continuously, bursting through to the 5th martial saint level in an instant, his power still rapidly increasing. Early, middle, late 5th martial saint. Until finally peaking at the absolute pinnacle of the martial saint realm. Then it stabilized. Within his dantian, his spiritual power raged like a vast ocean, waves crashing endlessly, yet in the center spun a vortex, drawing in the entire sea of spiritual force. Xie Yu stared at that swirling anomaly within his dantian, recalling ancient tales. Though he had never formally cultivated, as emperor he had dwelled at the heart of the martial world, immersed in its lore. He knew much, though merely an ordinary mortal. Martial saints were widely regarded as the highest martial realm attainable. Yet Xie Yu had overheard whispers of something greater still. He recalled court discussions of the neighboring nation of Hu, whose power they dared not defy. For Hu had birthed an emperor who had transcended the martial saint realm, a being who stood above the so-called final frontier, forcing his kingdom to pay tribute to sea lands, all to appease the supreme ruler of unfathomable might. The reason was clear. Hu had spawned an immortal emperor beyond the martial saint realm. The Xia nation stood no chance of resistance, not daring to even put up a fight. They simply bowed their heads and submitted. Yet during the deliberations at the time, the Prime Minister of Qin remarked, "Had I not suffered injury to my dantian, leaving my sea of qi unable to heal fully, I would have broken through long ago." Now Xie Yu examined the vortex within his dantian's sea of qi, deducing it must relate to breaking through higher realms. Yet he paid it little mind, having no need for such cultivation. In this 3rd imperial provision, 2 other items drew Xie Yu's scrutiny. It was well known that martial weapons fell into 4 tiers. The heavenly, earthly, mystical, and mundane arts of war likewise held these 4 ranks. Yet this provision contained a low-grade spirit-severing sword and a rudimentary sky eagle art. Existing outside the 4 tiers entirely, the provisions grew ever more exalted. Xie Yu thus reasoned that these unranked things surpassed the 5 saint realm, reserved for powers beyond. He summoned forth the imperial sword to examine the spirit-severing blade. In that instant, Xie Yu's heart stirred, for the might contained within this unassuming weapon gave even his peerless martial saint prowess pause. He could keenly perceive that with this blade alone, power unmatched by cultivation, he could humble any ordinary martial saint. Shaken, Xie Yu set the spirit blade aside and turned his mind to the sky eagle art. In an instant, his spiritual focus summoned an immense azure falcon behind him, its piercing golden eyes cold as glaciers, feathers swirling with storm clouds and lightning fire. Awestruck, Xie Yu understood without doubt. These were arts transcending the martial saint, meant only for those who had passed beyond such lofty realms. Extremely powerful. A pair of golden pupils are very cold, full of clouds and smoke, like a tsunami. All have golden lightning. Fan, as expected, it is something that only martial saints and above can touch. Mu's eyes were awash with murderous madness. At first, the requirements to ascend to the fourth emperor realm had seemed daunting, but now it was child's play. As Mu summoned 11 more puppets, 10 grandmasters and 1 martial saint. He infused each with his blood seal. Then he instructed the 3 squad leaders, "Convey my imperial decree, summon the chancellor and general to attend my presence." The squad leader Peng Ming hesitated. "Your Majesty, that may not be necessary. Mu frowned. "Explain." Peng Ming bowed deeply. "General Chen Xingfeng leads 30,000 cavalrymen, while Chancellor Qi leads ... He faltered. "They march on the capital too." "Depose you. A military coup, you say?" Mu's lips curved darkly. "How fortuitous they come to me." Peng Ming worried. "But your Majesty, their elite forces are formidable. A nuisance to be eliminated." Mu cut him off coldly. "This plays into my hands." Striding forth purposefully, he gestured and the 11 puppets followed in his wake. Peng Ming protested. "Your Majesty, be wary. The general's cavalry and chancellor's guards are mighty forces of battle-hardened elites, and their leaders themselves are peerless martial masters. However many you slay, there will be more." But Mu's expression was glacial. "Then I shall slay them all." With a wave of his hand, the emperor strode into the fray, his 11 puppet masters at his back. Like the mysterious Yin Yi, these puppets appeared as living, breathing people, possessing intelligence and autonomy. Yet Mu had imbued them with an unbreakable leash, harboring the dead's unwavering loyalty. As inhuman as they seemed, they had been living souls once, now bound to obey. Mu watched his unstoppable juggernaut march forth, and Peng Ming gaped in shock. For these 11 beings, even the enigmatic Yin Yi among them, were so transcendently powerful that he, an inner disciple, could fathom nothing of their depths. Perhaps the emperor could truly turn the tide after all. Peng Ming clenched his fists tightly, his heart burning with fervor. Earlier, aiding the Prince of Ning's ascension was a path to the coveted minister's throne. Yet now, if His Majesty, through youthful standing, could be deemed a minister risen to rule, with foundations weaker than the Prince of Ning's, Peng Ming's chances of favor grew greater. "A minister stands before his sovereign's steed." Peng Ming cried out this rallying phrase, hastening to keep pace with Mu's stride. Soon, Mu reached the ramparts of the imperial city. He descended like a shadowed lightning bolt. As one bowed before him, kowtowing, "I beg your Majesty's judgment on this subject. Half my life has strayed from righteousness." Within the city walls remain Chen Xingfeng and Cheng Zhu. They're tasked to avoid questioning Chen's dynasty. I was instructed to let them escape and spread word. Mu waved a dismissive hand. "No blame lies with you. The imperial city is a crucible. Factions plant agents within like so short a time, it cannot be fully purged. Nor did I expect such tumult to remain secret." Though Mu's actions were swift in seizing control, he was not so naive as to think Chen Xingfeng and Chen Su could remain oblivious for long. If such chaos erupted yet escaped their notice, it would mean their stations were undeserved. Even as the capital fell into turmoil, Chen Xingfeng and Chen Su led tens of thousands into the city, their arrival sparking upheaval. When the two joined forces under the Qing army banner, countless were struck with disbelief. Only men of wisdom who had clawed their way to power could comprehend the true state of the realm. A contest between the Prime Minister Chen Su and Grand Marshal Chen Xingfeng. Chen backed the Prince of Ning's claim, while Chen supported another, the Prince of Yan. It shocked countless people. Someone who can name him in the capital. They are all knowledgeable people. It's impossible not to know the current situation of the building. It's exactly like Prime Minister Chen Su. The game with General Chen Xingfeng. Chen Xingfeng supported Prince Ning. The emotional supporter was another prince, King Yan. In contrast, General Chen Xingfeng at least harbored no ambitions to usurp the throne, yet his disloyalty was an open secret. With the spectral king's ascension, the imperial clan still held the dragon throne. But if the Prince of Yan took the crown, it would not be long before Chen Zhu inherited it. Thus, General Chen Xingfeng secured the imperial clan's backing, inevitably opposing the Qin faction. Yet now the two joined forces, puzzling many who wondered, What unknown events had unfolded within the palace walls? On a certain street, Chen Qingfeng and Qin Su met. Though allies now, their interaction remained formal and guarded. Qin Su bowed slightly. General, have you discerned who controls the young emperor? Chen Qingfeng shook his head grimly. The intel I've gathered seems dubious. They claim the emperor first slew the empress to seize the palace guards, then killed the dowager to control the eunuchs, with a mysterious grand master appearing ... Qin Su's expression darkened. My reports match yours. Chen Qingfeng's eyes narrowed. You don't believe it either? Qin Su scoffed. That feckless boy emperor? Slay the dowager? Seize the capital in half a day? Impossible. He sneered darkly. It would be more believable to claim you broke through to godhood. Chen Qingfeng chuckled wryly. No need to probe me, Chancellor. If I descended your political machinations ... He arched a brow meaningfully. Qin Su smirked. Then what befell the palace? You know that wastrel couldn't accomplish such feats. To slay the dowager, seize the capital in hours ... Qin Su shook his head. It would be more plausible to claim you attained godhood. Chen Qingfeng chuckled darkly. No need for probing, Chancellor. Had I ascended to such heights ... He let the implication hang meaningfully. Your grand political games would be but child's play. Qin Su smiled thinly. Then what calamity grips the capital, General? Chen Qingfeng said in a cold voice. Perhaps someone from the noble houses grew restless. You and I have been in a stalemate, maintaining a precarious balance. Should this equilibrium persist, those noble houses would never find their chance. They are the ones most eager to muddy the waters. Qin Su picked up the thread, saying, Grand Marshal, you mean to say? A noble house backed the young emperor, deliberately stirring up this storm? Or rather, pushing him into the open, to shatter the balance, seizing their chance. To sow discord? Chen Qingfeng nodded. Beyond this, I cannot fathom another possibility. Qin Su nodded slightly. Then for now, let it be. That young emperor is not worth killing. He must be overjoyed in his delusion, believing loyal subjects have come to his aid. Chen Qingfeng snorted derisively. The fool. Cooperating with us is his only path to survival. Allying with those rabble-rousing noble houses? How idiotic, he scoffed dismissively. Hey, the stupidity, a waste, unable to discern the proper course of action. The great army set forth, a surging tide, whether Qin Su or Chen Qingfeng. Each led many skilled warriors straight for the imperial city. Soon, an army of 60,000 arrived below the city walls. From afar, Qin Su and Chen Qingfeng beheld Jiu Mo in black dragon robes, majestic presence, standing atop the ramparts. Your Majesty, Qin Su cried out in anguished disappointment. Why did you heed treacherous lies and commit the unfilial act of killing the Empress Dowager? You must have been misled by wicked schemers. Your Grace, I cannot stand by as you were again and again, my liege. Forgive this minister's impertinence against the Son of Heaven. Even if punished, I must eliminate those vile traitors. Watching Qin Su's histrionic raving below. A decade prior, Qin Su had deceived Jiu Mo into taking Qin Su as his empress. Back then, Jiu Mo truly believed Qin's words, thought him a loyal, upright man, pitying how the dowager mistreated him. It was all an act, his apparent earnestness, merely a mask to hide his villainy, deliberately marrying his daughter to him to protect him. That was the first time Jiu Mo openly slandered the dowager empress in court. Defying her threats, he took Xie Hui as his wife. In that gambit, his public defiance enraged the dowager. Qin Su grew unhinged, yet when the infuriated dowager later tormented Jiu Mo, he remained steadfast, assuming Qin Su, his new father-in-law, would defend him. But he never imagined Qin Su would let him die. After entering the palace, Qin Su's cruelty surpassed even the dowager's torture. It was then that Jiu Mo's spirit utterly broke. After that incident, his position in the harem plummeted. Even eunuchs dared bully him, for before then the dowager had granted him a modicum of respect. But after Jiu Mo defied her on Qin Su's urging, the dowager cast off all restraint. One could argue Jiu Mo brought it on himself, yet he was but 10 years old then. lacking the wisdom to see through Qin Zu's manipulations. And when deceiving young Ji Yumo, Qin Su feigned sincere affection, just as he does now. From atop the city wall, Ji Yumo glared at him, disgusted. Your vile deception, Qin Su ... He spat bitterly, ice cold. ... has sealed my resolve to resist you unto death. Qin Su inwardly raged at the insult, yet feigned sorrow. Your Majesty, do not stubbornly blind yourself. He spread his hands pleadingly. This humble subject speaks only harsh truths. His eyes shone with false anguish. For your own ultimate well-being, my liege. Ji Yumo scoffed. Spare me your hollow platitudes. He glared imperiously. You overstep, minister. Be gone. Qin Su sighed deeply. One day, you'll understand my intentions. ... Revolted, Ji Yumo cut him off with a slashing gesture. Guards, open the gates. We ride out to battle. At his command, the city gates swung wide. Led by the Grand Master Yi Li, 11 martial titans at the vanguard. 10,000 imperial guards poured forth to war. Witnessing this scene, Qin Su and Chen Xingfeng were overjoyed. Chen Xingfeng sneered coldly, the fool has indeed gained some power, but grown arrogant beyond his station. How idiotic to march out and engage us. Qin Su smiled slyly, Grand Marshal. The more foolish this young emperor, the better for us, is it not? Were he truly cunning enough to stay within the walls, our losses would be far greater. You have a point, Chen Xingfeng sneered. Gripping his long spear, he declared, Today I shall educate this senseless fool who dared kill my nephew and my sister. Qin Su urged hastily, Grand Marshal, cripple him, maim him if you must, but do not kill him. Foolish as he is, Ji Yumo still has uses for us. I understand, Chen Xingfeng growled. Spurring his steed, he charged forth. The warhorse was a massive mutant breed, twice a normal charger size. Its thunderous whinnies like a tiger's roar. From atop the ramparts, Ji Yumo turned to the Wusheng puppet beside him. First, we kill that Val Qin Su. Chen Xingfeng will be your opponent. The Wusheng puppet leapt down, a longsword appearing in its grasp, one swing unleashed. A blade key over 50 meters, slaying scores of foes. Its key erupted in an inferno of power. The blazing sword radiating scorching light. A terrifying aura sweeping the battlefield. The charging Chen Xingfeng's heart jolted. Limitless arts. He gasped in dread. No wonder the little fool dares act so brash. Then today, I shall slay this limitless. Chen Xingfeng spurred his steed at the puppet. The two clashed amidst the chaos of battle. Even the wily Qin Su froze, aghast at this puppet's advent. The voice of shock is supreme. No wonder the little emperor dares to be so arrogant. That general will kill the best today. Immediately, Chen Xingfeng rode his horse towards the martial saint puppet. The two of them stood together in the battlefield for an instant. His emotions were also shocked by the sudden appearance of Wu Sheng. A flicker of surprise flashed in his eyes. A martial sacred being far outranked a mere grand master. In the entire Great Ravine, one could count the martial sacred beings with just 2 hands worth of fingers. Any single one posed a formidable wildcard. This fool Ji Yumo is idiotic enough ... Qin Su inwardly breathed a sigh of relief, murmuring, to have a martial sacred's backing ... Now if he plays it smart, keeping a low profile ... He mused darkly. He might just stir up quite the storm. But seeing Ji Yumo's bold provocation, he scoffed. The brat fails to keep his wits. No more delay then. Qin Su ascended with a burst of energy. A longsword materialized in his grasp. He charged the martial sacred puppet, shouting to General Chen Xingfeng, I shall deal with this. That treacherous cur has blinded his majesty. Qin Su soared into the fray. Yet in midair a calm voice reached him. Your opponent is the awakened one, old beast. Qin Su paled in shock. Whirling around, he saw Ji Yumo hovering aloft. His heart clenched in dread. Goosebumps erupted across his flesh, for this power to defy gravity, floating effortlessly in the void, was a martial sacred's hallmark. Grandmasters lacked the reserves, the sea of energy, relying only on their danshan's inner force to wield their arms. Unequaled to long inhabiting the empty skies, only martial sacreds commanded that boundless sea, an inexhaustible wellspring fueling their supernatural might. In a blur, Ji Yumo closed the distance before Qin Su could react. With ghostly speed he struck, a thunderous kick crashing squarely into Qin Su's chest. The Chancellor desperately blocked, But the resounding impact shook the heavens like a thunderclap. The forces of their exchange roared like celestial fury unleashed. Qinzu's face flushed crimson with strain. His chest constricted viciously. A gout of blood burst from his lips. The force hurled him back like a broken doll, to smash thunderously against the city ramparts. The city walls were smashed, leaving a gaping hole. Qingshu burst forth from the ruins, emotions raging. He wiped the corner of his mouth, staring at the ancient tomb in disbelief. Chen Shengdao, you're not Ji Yumo, are you? Your aura hasn't changed. You are the little emperor. But how is this possible? How could you be injured? Ji Yumo descended like a falcon, his voice cold. Go ask the king of hell. Ji Yumo fell like a meteor, charging towards Qingshu, drawing a long sword from his hand. Swords filled the sky, brilliant light, radiant splendor. The entire heavens became a golden sea. Clouds roiled. Qingshu held nothing back. He let out a roar. His sword aura soared as well. Even the empty void seemed to boil. The two sword auras collided. The thunderous sound shook heaven and earth. It rattled Daiwan. Qingshu coughed up another mouthful of blood, but a cold smile crept across his face. Little Huang brother, he said, you've hidden your true depth well. But if you want to kill me, you still have a long way to go. I've already reached the peak of martial sainthood. And in that instant, Ji Yumo's form vanished from Qingshu's sight. The next moment, he flashed past the countless swords, directly before Qingshu. This was the heavenly skill of the great vehicle. At the point of attack, silver radiance burst forth, as if drawing a moon in the night sky. Dazzling, resplendent, silver light flowed, like the divine moon in the ninth heaven. A true martial art. It pierced through Qingshu's body. Yet another heavenly skill. How was this possible? Qingshu coughed up fresh blood. He fell to his knees on the ground, looking at his calm and composed parents with utter disbelief. At such a tender age, they said, how could you possibly master so many martial arts weapons? As a martial arts sage himself, he understood better than anyone the difficulties in cultivating divine martial arts. It had taken him decades to merely reach the pinnacle of mastering a single divine martial art. And that was only through incredible fortunes. His divine martial art made other warriors in the Xian nation fear him. Yet now, Ji Yumo had effortlessly demonstrated mastery of several divine martial arts. His heart was about to shatter. Ji Yumo regained his composure, raised his long sword, and struggled to stand up, but couldn't get on his feet. Ji Yumo, he implored urgently, you cannot kill me. If you kill me, the court will be thrown into chaos. My followers will not let you rule in peace. It will end right here. I admit defeat, and will pledge loyalty to you from now on. Ji Yumo coldly replied. His words carried weight. If you don't keep your word, I will exterminate your entire clan. If the court is thrown into chaos, then I will slaughter, until order is restored. With a swing of his sword, Ji Yumo decapitated him. Grabbing the head, Ji Yumo rose into the air. Channeling his inner energy, he proclaimed, the old master is dead. Any who resist shall have their clans exterminated. With Ji Yumo's thunderous roar, the battlefield descended into chaos, especially among the troops who had followed the old master. Chen Xingfeng, locked in combat with the martial sage puppets, bellowed, do not panic! That dog emperor spouts nonsense. The prime minister is not dead. Ji Yumo's eyes flashed with malice. He coldly laughed. Ah yes, I nearly forgot about you, you mutt. In the void, Ji Yumo flung the old master's head aside. Sword in hand, he charged at Chen Xingfeng. Stop him, they cried. Chen could only contend with the martial sage puppets, his defenses wide open. Seeing Ji Yumo rush forth like an unstoppable tide, Chen paled in horror. In an instant, several great masters flew to intercept Ji Yumo, but with just a few casual strokes, he cut them all down. He then closed in on Chen Xingfeng. Chen retreated rapidly, staring at Ji Yumo in dismay. Very well, he said coldly. Dog Emperor, I underestimated you. I never imagined a waste like you could hide such depths. Since that is the case, today I shall take the throne myself. Chen pushed out his ki, slowly coalescing a blood-red longsword. His face contorted as he channeled an immense surge of energy. His true ki formed into the dimly glowing blade, seeping with malice. Chen's expression turned vicious. I had intended to use this against the great clans as a last resort. But you have forced my hand, you waste. As the longsword materialized fully, the very heavens and earth swelled with his immense power, forming an ocean of ki. Chun rose from its depths like a primordial force, ancient glyphs swirling around him in a majestic aura. In this moment, Chun's bearing reached an unprecedented apex, his aura transcending even that of a martial sage. With a swing of his sword, the heavens and earth dimmed. Your Majesty, be careful. The puppet sages moved to intercept, rushing in to deflect the blow. An earth-shattering boom. The puppet sage was grievously wounded by the single strike, sent flying hundreds of yards, coughing blood. Chun's body shone with a brilliant lunar radiance, like cascading from his form. He seemed to be everywhere at once. With a single step, the void trembled. The earth cracked apart. An overwhelming force like a tsunami bore down upon Xie. Yet you are the emperor? Seeking death? Chun Qingfeng charged rapidly towards Xie, his aura vast and mighty. But to Chun Qingfeng's astonishment, even at this juncture, Xie still stood with his hands behind his back, calm and unruffled, an air of nonchalance. Chun Qingfeng snorted coldly, a sword thrust out. The vast universe overturned, heaven and earth churned, sending out ripples of blinding light. Nearby, the ground crackled and fractured, crumbling piece by piece as the sword descended. At the pivotal moment, behind Xie materialized a colossal praying mantis. It let out a clear cry. The divine light of exalted sage arose from the heavens. Its silhouette instantly swelled, looming over the battlefield like a vast cloud. The ominous aura was staggering. The praying mantis was utterly terrifying, its sound waves causing soldiers within hundreds of meters to tremble, their ears ringing. Many guards instantly bled from all orifices. The dozens of meters long sword aura Chun Qingfeng had unleashed was shattered into fragments. The praying mantis claw descended, a hazy appendage reaching for Chun Qingfeng. Chun Qingfeng's eyes widened as he swung his sword to strike, but could not harm the praying mantis in the slightest. With a thunderous boom, the claw clenched shut, shattering that mighty sword. Chun Qingfeng let out a wretched scream. Then came a series of sickening cracks, as every bone in his body was crushed by that claw. He collapsed into a puddle of gore. Xie waved his hand slightly, and the praying mantis vanished. He approached Chun Qingfeng's broken form. Chun Qingfeng tried to struggle, but could not move a muscle. Xie looked down at the fallen man. Chun Qingfeng wished to resist, yet was utterly paralyzed. Chun stammered in disbelief. How is it possible? How could you survive? You had the immortal sex against you. Xie had no interest in conversing with the fool. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a surge of ki, transforming into a beam of light. In an instant, Chun Qingfeng's head tumbled from his shoulders. Xie snatched it up, soaring into the air, his voice ringing coldly. Chun Qingfeng is dead. Those who surrender shall be spared, but defiance shall be met with the extermination of 9 clans. Xie resounding proclamation shook the battlefield. The death of Qingyu had already sapped rebel morale. Many no longer wished to resist. Now, with their last hope, Chun Qingfeng slain, their spirit was utterly broken. Only a small number refused to surrender, fleeing the battlefield instead. These were Chun and King's most trusted lieutenants. They knew that surrender meant execution all the same. Their only hope was to fight to the death. Xie snorted derisively. A longsword coalesced in his grasp as he charged into the fray. In an instant, sword ki crisscrossed the air, blood raining down. Before long, the ground ran red with rivers of gore, littered with the dead. Meanwhile, the puppet sages and great masters hunted the remnants. Their efforts were ferocious, but the chase proved little challenge. Soon, all those who resisted lay slain. The rebel soldiers threw down their banners and weapons. Surrendering, silence fell over the battlefield once more. Xie voice cut through the quiet. Peng Ming, the bloody commander rushed forth, exhilarated. Your servant awaits your command. Integrate the army into our forces, Jiumo ordered. Then seal the city gates. None shall be permitted to leave. Any who disobey shall be executed. Your will be done, your majesty. Pengming immediately began rallying his subordinates. To carry out the emperor's commands, Jiumo turned towards the puppet marshal saint, saying, "Take men and capture the Chun family immediately. Remember, exterminate 9 clans. Leave none alive. Scatter them to the 7 winds for this emperor." The puppet marshal saint bowed. "Your servant obeys, your majesty." Heeding Jiumo's words, he strode out rapidly, commanding, "Soldiers, with me to the Qin family manor. Seal it, let none escape. I shall exterminate their clan. Dig 3 feet under. Leave no worm unturned. Split each one in half." Whether exterminating 9 clans or wiping out this clan, it was an immense undertaking, impossible to complete in a short time. But no matter. Jiumo delighted in vengeance without delay. He would now kill all members of the Qin and Chun clans in the capital. The upheaval in the capital was immense, storms raging. The whole city was in turmoil. Troops raced along the main streets everywhere. Combat broke out in all quarters. Chen Qingfeng and the others had held great sway in the capital. Now they were dead. Though Jiumo commanded the military, fully restoring order would be enormously challenging. Yet with him and the puppet marshal saint together, 2 mighty martial saints, suppressing resistance would be straightforward. The remaining opposition could not stir major upheaval. The capital's fortunes had shifted. The battle for the imperial city was over. The victor was one none had foreseen. The puppet emperor immediately exterminated the Chun and Qin clans, over 5,000 souls, in a single night. Heads rolled. Blood flowed like rivers. Any associated with the 2 clans were ruthlessly hunted down. This night of chaos, the city was in turmoil. An oppressive pall over the deserted streets. The upheaval raged on unchecked. Jiumo struck down any from the Qin and Chun clans who dared resist his wrath. He had been rushing all over the city, running about for hours before finally finding a moment's respite. In that time, he had successfully taken control of the city defense forces and imperial guards. When he returned to the imperial palace, a system prompt appeared. The conditions for ascending to the 4th-tier imperium have been met. First, control of the capital city, complete. One task remains, dominion over the imperial court. Jiumo pondered this briefly. Controlling the capital amounted to command over the imperial army and city defenses. Together, these forces numbered over 100,000 men. During the siege on the capital, Qinsu and Chun Qingfeng each led 30,000, leaving a reserve at their main camps. With a single strike on those camps, Jiumo had eliminated the bulk of their strength. As for the remaining task of controlling the court, to achieve it, he would need the full allegiance of the civil and military officials. Every ministry and department must submit. In other words, replacing them all with his own people. But even to attempt such a turnover, he would need loyal men of his own. Those loyal to the emperor were either dead or imprisoned. Jiumo could only sigh ruefully. Chun Qingfeng and Qinzu's control of the court left not a single loyalist. The last one, the Grand Tutor Qianzi, had been thrown into the dungeons just that very morning. "Guards," Jiumo called out. Several imperial attendants hurried in, led by the captain of the imperial guards, Song Gezer. Jiumo personally went to the dungeons, releasing Qianzi and his family members. Upon learning of the upheaval in the capital, Qianzi had gone half mad, swinging between tears, laughter, and wild shouts. It took a long while before his spirit could be calmed. Jiumo personally ministered to him, using his ki to stabilize the ailing minister's condition. Qianzi then hurriedly bathed and changed clothes before presenting himself in the royal study. "Your humble servant Qianzi pays respectful obeisance to your majesty," he cowed out, crying, "Long live the emperor! Long live the reigning emperor!" Qianzi performed an elaborate series of bows and kowtows. Jiumo gently raised his hand, using his inner energy to help Qianzi up. "Grand Preceptor," he said, "you have suffered much." "Not I, your majesty has suffered." Qianzi's eyes were red. "It was my failing as a subject that caused your majesty such anguish all these years. I am at fault, disgracing your royal father and failing you, my lord," Jiumo said, Without the Grand Preceptor's aid, these years would have been even more bitter for this emperor. But all that is past now. Whether myself or the Grand Preceptor, we have emerged from the dark clouds into the light. Take care of your health, Grand Preceptor, for I have great need of you still. The Grand Preceptor wiped away tears, saying, though lacking in ability, these old bones yet remain. Graced by your Majesty's favor, I shall exert my full efforts to prove worthy of your kindness. Jiu Mo waved his hand slightly, a chair materializing for Qi Enzi. Be seated, Grand Preceptor, he said. The turmoil in the capital is not yet over. Although Chen Qingfeng and his ilk have been eliminated, the court remains a cesspool. For years, it has degenerated into a plaything for corrupt officials. Now that I have grasped the reins of power, I must swiftly purge the court, else even after this great victory, turmoil will persist. On the morrow when court convenes, I shall restore you as Grand Preceptor and Chancellor. You shall lead the civil and martial officials, but for now, recommend loyal men to aid in this task. Qi Enzi gazed at Jiu Mo silently, his heart filled with emotion. In just a day's absence, the emperor had undergone a vast transformation brimming with majesty. As the Grand Preceptor studied him wordlessly, my heart is full of emotion. It's only been a day since I saw the emperor. Already the throne is majestic, full of atmosphere. He carried himself nothing like a puppet emperor of over a decade, but with the grand bearing of a founding sovereign. Yet the more commanding his presence, the more Qianji's heart ached. In his view, this Jiu Mo, such imperial nobility could not be assumed overnight. Jiu Mo must have endured untold suffering, swallowing bitter humiliation. All these years, a ruler of towering stature, forced to cower, his spirit crushed for far too long. How wretched his life must have been. Grand Tutor, have you candidates in mind? Jiu Mo inquired. Qianzi pondered a moment, then asked, to what extent does your Majesty intend to purge the court officials? No leniency, Jiu Mo declared. That would be unwise, Qianzi cautioned. Your Majesty, though Qin Su and Chen Qingfeng have been ousted, we cannot simply uproot all officials. The civil and military ranks, they cannot be purged recklessly. These men, though formerly in league with Qin and Chun, are largely from prestigious clans. If your Majesty eliminates them wholesale, the consequences extend beyond just the court. It would destabilize the entire realm. The power of these clans does not stem from court positions alone, but their hold over the provinces. There is an old saying, imperial authority wanes in the regions. Its meaning, even edicts may carry less weight than the clan patriarch's words. Hence, your Majesty, I urge you to tread carefully in consolidating power. Prolonged instability serves no one at this juncture. Jiu Mo furrowed his brow. Very well. For now I shall observe the clan's dispositions. Issue me an edict, your Majesty, said Qianzi. I must visit the dungeons. The only loyal officials left to your Majesty are imprisoned there. Over the years, with the tyranny of the warlords Chun and Qin, all those who defied them were thrown into the dungeons. They are the only ones your Majesty can rely on now, because the generals and ministers are close to the situation and the Prime Minister's emotions are under control. In the imperial court, the two relentlessly purged dissenters. Many officials were imprisoned in the dungeons, especially those loyal elder statesmen devoted to the former emperor. Without exception, they were either executed or thrown into the dungeons. So Qi Enzi was quite right. Those Jiu Mo could rely on were indeed imprisoned. Jiu Mo immediately called out, Yingyi. As the words fell, a shadowy figure materialized in the study. It was Ying, the hidden agent. Swiftly, he drafted an imperial decree, then retreated and vanished into the shadows once more. Jiu Mo reviewed the contents and stamped it with the imperial seal, passing the decree to Qi Enzi. Qi Enzi accepted it, glancing in the direction Ying had vanished. Your Majesty, he asked, was that man from the Shadow Dragon Guard? The Shadow Dragon Guard? Jiu Mo was puzzled. What is that? Qi Enzi froze. You did not know, your Majesty, my mistake. Then where did those formidable bodyguards of yours come from? Jiu Mo replied. I secretly cultivated and recruited them over the years. Qi Enzi's eyes narrowed. And your Majesty trusts them without reservation? Jiu Mo nodded. Those whose loyalty is absolute. Yes. Qi Enzi exhaled slowly. Your Majesty is truly a remarkable ruler. I had assumed the Shadow Dragon Guard was a contingency left behind by the late Emperor to aid your Majesty in restoring order. Jiu Mo frowned slightly. I've never heard of it. Qi Enzi sighed. Perhaps I imagined too much. The Shadow Dragon Guard was likely dissolved long ago, or eliminated by Chen Qingfeng and his cohorts. He fell silent for a moment, then continued. The Shadow Dragon Guard was an elite cavalry force under the late Emperor's personal command, small in number, but comprised entirely of formidable masters. Speaking of the hidden dragon position, it was a cavalry in the hands of the late Emperor. Not many people, but they are all masters. The lowest rank among them is Grand Master, the highest Martial Saint. As for their exact numbers, only the late Emperor knew. Back then, among all court officials, I alone was aware of the Yin Long Guard's existence. The late Emperor had revealed to me that this elite force answered only to the throne, their loyalty spanning dynasties. I had thought your Majesty discovered the Hidden Dragon sect. The Hidden Dragon answers to none but itself. Your late father did not impart their secrets to me. Jiu Mo shook his head. The late Emperor seldom received me before his demise. Then he passed suddenly. I was not even present. How could I learn of the hidden ones? If such a formidable sect, as powerful as you claim, truly existed, Grand Tutor, why did I suffer such indignities all these years? Qi Anzi sighed. The late Emperor's demise was due to a deviant cultivation that drove him insane. It happened so suddenly. He may not have had time to pass on the secrets. Your Majesty, we could investigate Empress Dowager Li's regime and see if the Yin Long Guard still exists. If they do, they would be a formidable force. A pity if they were scattered. Jiu Mo's brow furrowed slightly. The whole matter struck him as peculiar. Recounting his own ascension, it seemed so abrupt. A prince born to a palace maid, lacking power or favor, never shown affection by the late Emperor, yet the throne was bequeathed to him upon his father's passing. The whole matter reeked of mystery. And now, this unknown hidden dragon sect emerges, adding another enigma to the puzzle. Before long, Qianzi took his leave with the imperial edict. Watching him depart, Jiu Mo spoke slowly. Investigate this so-called hidden dragon sect for me. As you command, a voice echoed from the shadows. Soon Ying's presence faded away completely. Jiu Mo sat in his chair, lightly drumming his fingers on the desk. Abnormalities permeated everything, hinting at secrets. The late Emperor was also extraordinary. The sword he summoned before Chen Qingfeng killed him, and Chen Qingfeng's mention of the immortal sects, without exception, they all pointed to profound underlying mysteries. This world was far more complex than Jiu Mo currently understood. Another perplexing matter was this. Though Qin Su and Chen Qingfeng held sway over the court, able to manipulate even the emperor, they still harbored trepidation towards the Xie clan. Awareness not as Qi Enzi had described. To Qi Enzi's understanding, the great clans derived power from their control over local territories. But if that were all, it would not warrant such fear from Qin and Chen. In recent years, with their grip on the court, they had made great concessions to the Xie clan, yet after eliminating Qin Su and Chen Qingfeng today, and purging their factions, 3 of the 6 imperial chancellors were from the Xie clan. Of the 20 vice-chancellors, 8 also hailed from the Xie clan. These men had escaped today's purge, because, after Jiu Mo seized and exterminated the Qin and Chen clans, he found no direct evidence of their collusion with Qin and Chen. In fact, the opposite emerged, that in recent years, they had restrained Qin and Chen's excesses. This was extremely perplexing, for in the nation of Daxia, there were only 2 great aristocratic clans, and for great martial clans with martial saints. The 2 aristocratic clans were naturally the Qins and Chens, and their 2 martial saints were Qin Su and Chen Qingfeng, acknowledged as Daxia's mightiest experts, both at the martial saint peak realm. As to who was stronger remained unresolved. The other for great clans were, the other for methods are Qinzhou Li's Taiyuan royal family, the Dongtingyu Wenzi and Chenliu Ma clans. These for great aristocratic families, cannot compare in legacy to the Chun and Qin clans. More crucially, the martial saints of these four houses are but centenarian elders long past their prime. The strongest among them has attained only the middle stage of martial sainthood. None are at the apex of their prowess. In truth, the combined might of their four martial saints would be no match for either Qin Su or Chun Qingfang alone. Yet Qin Su and Chun Qingfang treat these four houses with utmost trepidation. A peculiar conundrum indeed. As Jiu Mo pondered this puzzle in silence, an eunuch's voice called from outside. Your Majesty, the Zhuanzi Grand Marshal requests an audience. Zhuanzi was the puppet martial saint under Jiu Mo's command, recently granted the title of Forbidden's Army Grand Marshal, and leadership over the Western Mountain Forbidden's troops. Truth be told, the puppets Jiu Mo summoned were exceptional combatants, yet beyond battle. Their other capabilities were quite mundane. However, with manpower in short supply, these pedestrian strategists could still prove useful, steadfast if unremarkable. They could be deployed without worry. Enter, Jiu Mo beckoned. Clad in full armor, Zhuanzi strode in, bowing before his lord. Speak, Grand Marshal, what news? Zhuanzi reported solemnly. My lord, in a secret chamber of the Chun residence, we discovered a prisoner under confinement. He claims to hail from the celestial realm, lured and imprisoned by Chun Qingfang for 20 years. Interrogated for the whereabouts of celestial manuals and cultivators. And where is he now? Jiu Mo inquired. Still confined in the Chun residence's secret chamber, Zhuanzi replied. I dared not move him, unable to gauge his true power. Jiu Mo nodded approvingly. You did well. If he truly hails from this so-called celestial realm, we cannot discount hidden abilities. Once free, he could prove a grave threat. I shall go and see for myself, the emperor declared. Xuanzong hurriedly said, Your Majesty, now is not the time. The morning court session will begin soon. Jiu Mo looked up, noticing the sky had already turned a hazy gray. Ever since crossing over yesterday, he'd been busy non-stop, unwittingly working through the entire day. After a moment's thought, Jiu Mo said, Very well, I shall attend the morning court first. Then I will meet with these so-called immortal cultivators. At daybreak, on the city walls, bloodstains and shattered debris were still clearly visible. But the ground had already been cleaned up, hardly looking like a great battle had occurred just yesterday. However, the lingering stench of blood in the air remained thick. At this moment, many had gathered outside the city gates. Court officials of high rank, but compared to yesterday, their numbers had decreased by nearly a third. Those missing had either fallen to Qin Su and Chun Qingfang's forces, or were implicated in their schemes. Some were executed on the spot, while others were arrested. Among the Ministry of Ministries, 3 chancellors had fallen. Numerous vice-chancellors were arrested or beheaded too. For now, the city gates remained closed, as the remaining officials gathered in groups, centered around the 3 remaining chancellors. The Minister of Rights, Li Ziyuan, the Minister of Revenue, Wang Yun, and the Minister of Works, Zhang Shi. Li Ziyuan of the Ministry of Rights hailed from the great Zhenzhou clan. Wang Yun of the Revenue Ministry was from the influential Taiyuan royal lineage. As for Zhang Shi of the Works Ministry, he came from a preeminent aristocratic family, the Zhangs. These 3 held immense sway at court, naturally becoming the center of gravity. The many Huaiyu clan officials all deferred to them. Honorable ministers, an official named Guan Yun said with cupped fists, Our emperor is truly extraordinary, unannounced yet shocking when revealed. Lying dormant for 12 years, none could discern the dragon lurking within. Who could have imagined this? An emperor of such magnificent vision and stratagem. This morning's court audience marks His Majesty's first true imperial assembly in 12 years of reign. It is unlikely to be a tranquil affair. The officials murmured in agreement, many with furrowed brows. One remarked, whether of magnificent vision, I cannot say. But this emperor is certainly no benevolent soul. His ruthlessness and cruelty are appalling. Last night alone, over 10,000 heads rolled. And the purge shows no sign of ending. Over the years, we have shown this emperor little respect. He would not spare us, would he? Bai Shu laughed lightly. Qin Su and Chun Qingfang are as good as dead already. Even the Empress Dowager and the Empress met tragic ends, supposedly of illness. Hey, we all know The emperor himself did the deed. His bloodlust knows no bounds. Surely he will be sated soon? Having gone to such extremes, he must have vented his rage. Unless he no longer desires the throne? Qin Su and Chun Qingfeng were traitors, executed justly. But one of us, we took no part in their treachery. What reason does he have to kill us? A senior official sighed. Li's words ring true. Yet among us, who can claim clean hands? If His Majesty truly investigates, we are all doomed. Li chuckled unperturbed. Fear not, he would not dare. At court, we shall offer him a gracious exit. Give him face, and he will relent, unless he truly wishes to relinquish the throne. Long live the emperor, may his reign be everlasting. In the Golden Pavilion, a sea of officials awaited. Jiumo sat upon the dragon throne, surveying the gathered dignitaries, gazing down upon the assembled civil and military officials. Even as the pinnacle of martial sages, he could not suppress the surging emotions within. The feeling of sitting upon the dragon throne this time was utterly different from yesterday. This time he sensed that he sat above all the realm's myriad beings. The supreme sovereign. It was an intoxicating sensation. Little wonder across the ages, countless have fallen prey to power's temptation. This feeling of standing above 10,000 was utterly addictive. At this moment, the ranks of officials below wore a medley of expressions. Merely a single day prior, this laughable puppet emperor had truly become the supreme sovereign. Many now felt an unease in their hearts. Yet as they looked upon Jiumo, they could only sigh in admiration. The young emperor had indeed hidden his talents well. All these years, none had discerned his imperial bearing. They marveled inwardly. He did not seem one newly ascended to the throne, but an absolute sovereign long enthroned, whose every word held undisputed authority. His regal aura exceeded even the late emperors. After some simple formalities, Jiumo proceeded directly to the heart of the matter. The Minister of Justice swiftly brought forth those Jiumo had freed from the dungeons. In concert, they promptly reinstated them to official ranks. Throughout the proceedings, the gathered ministers and generals remained silent. None dared voice opposition, for they understood clearly. The emperor had purged Qin Su and Chun Qingfeng's factions, after which the vacant positions would naturally go to his own men. Once the reorganization was complete, Jiumo spoke again. Ministers all, the treacherous Qin Su and the rebel Chun Qingfeng's factions, threw court affairs into turmoil. For many years, the commoners suffered immensely. Across the realm, officials sold positions and titles. Corruption was rampant. Though the traitors have been purged, noxious vermin still infest the realm. We shall appoint imperial commissioners, entrusted with our treasured swords, to tutor and cleanse the lands, restoring order to the world.